Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to day 2 of the Journey to Emancipation. How many of you were able to attend last night? I bet you had lots of conversation after you saw the documentary, right? Are you ready for more? Are you really ready for more? All right, well, we're here to bring you more because, of course, there is more. And today, Monday, December 6th, is a day that we need to pause to recognize. I want to read a statement to you from the chairman. See which one of my phones I got it on. From the chairman of the NAACP, Leon Russell. He sent us a message. Let me just find which phone I was reading it from. And it's to help kick us off, really. Unfortunately, he can't be here, but I want to read to you what he said. I just want to bring his voice to the room as we start this morning. This is from Leon Russell, chairman of the NAACP National Board. 156 years ago on this day, yes, today, December 6th, the institution of legal slavery in the United States was ended by the ratification of the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution. Happy Freedom Day. The history of Africans in America must be told. That is our, he put our in caps, story, not his story, must be told. You get it? Not his story, but our story. If we are to be the United States of America, we must recognize and come to grips with the full experience of the development and evolution of this nation. Today's conference is an opportunity for Florida to start the process. You are embarking on a major effort. May it be successful, and may today's conversations be the beginning of that process. Have a great conference. Leon W. Russell, Chair, NAACP National Board. Let's give our chairman a big round of applause for sending us that great message. Now for our program. We are gonna have some very important people. I know all of you are VIPs. All of you. Raise your hand if you're a VIP. Everybody's hand should be up. You're all very important people. But we have some folks who are elected that we want to make sure that they come and greet us and greet you from all over the state of Florida. And today we have our beloved Senator Loranne Ausley is going to come and bring greetings. And we also we're planning to have greetings from our Leon County School Superintendent. But we're blessed to have the Assistant Superintendent with us this morning, Dr. Michelle Gale. So after you get greetings from our beloved Senator Loranne Ausley, we'll then have greetings from Leon County Schools by way of our Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Gale. What I said? Dr. Michelle Gale. Listen, I'm trying to get that first name in there, but I went to Gale. Dr. Michelle Gale. Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause as they come.
Good morning. Good morning. It is so amazing to see a group of people this early on this beautiful Monday morning, ready to go to work. But it is an honor to be here today. I drove by the Knott House on the way here purposely because, like so many of you, I always look forward to the official reading of the Emancipation Proclamation right here in my Senate district at the Knott House on May 20th, which is Florida's Emancipation Day. And you are gathered here today to really study that journey, the journey to emancipation. It has been a journey, and it has been long and a difficult journey, but it brings us to where we are today. The journey continues, and as I look around at all of the experts and historians who are here, I know we have the right people in this room to continue on the path to understanding and acknowledging the full scope and the timeline of emancipation history. There are so many to thank and to recognize for their leadership in working on a very persistent and consistent basis to make this a conference, but also to bring this to the forefront. Altamise Barnes and Commissioner Diane Williams-Cox, thank you. Thank you for your dedication to sharing and educating all of us on a very regular basis, not only about emancipation, but also the robust African American journey in our state and our country. Thank you. As we think about the path traveled, I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to honor the life of a true trailblazer on that journey. Congresswoman Carrie Meek. Born here in Tallahassee as a sharecropper's daughter, granddaughter of a slave, she made history. As the first black woman elected to the Florida Senate, and the body that I now am proud to serve in. While I did not have the honor of serving with her, I served with her son, Kendrick. We remain friends. And Congresswoman has journeyed home. She broke through barriers to make history. And that's what this conference is about. Through a thorough understanding of our full and shared history, you are honoring the past and giving us the perspective to grasp the future. So thank you.
So I'm going to go ahead and say good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Oh my goodness, it is so wonderful to be here to see everyone who is interested in making sure that our history is known, told, celebrated, and we're building a legacy that will continue to enrich our community, our nation, our state, everyone. My name is Dr. Michelle Gale. I'm Assistant Superintendent, Professional and Community Services for Leon County Schools. I bring you greetings on behalf of Superintendent Rocky Hanna, the Chair of the School Board, Darrell Jones, the Vice Chair of the School Board, Alva Striplin, and all of our board members, and the 30,000 plus scholars of Leon County Schools. They are the future. And because of things that we're doing today, that future is bright. The journey to the emancipation, thanks to trailblazers like Ms. Altamise Barnes, yes, Diane Williams-Cox, Larry Rivers, other people in the community that kept nudging and saying, make sure that our history is told. Leon County Schools, years ago, embarked on a journey with the Florida Department of Education, wherein we became one of only 12 districts in the state of Florida that are exemplary districts for African American history. Okay, in the words of our school board chair, Darrell Jones, you may applaud. You can tell him I said that because he'll be here later, okay? And he would be deliciously proud, right? Knowing Darrell. Now, think about that. There are 67 districts in the state of Florida. We are one of 12. It's a rigorous process to become an exemplary district for African American history. It means that you are teaching African American history every day of the year, not just in February, okay? Not just, oh, we need some fillers here, there, and the other place, but every day. In the back, and I'd like to ask them to all stand up if I may, and if I'm speaking too long, I know Commissioner Cox is gonna sit me down because she's a good friend. She'll give me hand signals, you're talking too much. I would like the members of Leon County School District who are here today to please stand up, and I'd like to give them a round of applause. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the boots on the ground people. These are the people who have helped to write the curriculum. And it's not just curriculum that we write and we put up on a shelf and it's like, we're done. No, it is curriculum that is looked at on an annual basis and updated. Last year, and you'll hear from one of our panel members later on today, Ms. Susan Walden, Mr. Zapata, and many others, they contributed to emancipation lessons during Emancipation Week, where we had an opportunity to share with pre-K through 12 lessons that were already there, and teachers just could go in the Canvas, get those lessons, and present them and have those engaging, rich conversations with kids that left them asking for more, and more. And to that end, we're here today. So when I tell you that Leon County Schools, thanks to the support that we get from everyone within our district, within our state, within our nation, we are committed to making sure that the correct history is told within our school system. Please trust and believe that that is happening. Again, on behalf of Superintendent Rocky Hanna, we welcome you, and we know that you're going to have a great time, and you're just going to leave here with so much knowledge. I always do, even during the planning meetings and other conferences that I've had the opportunity to work and just sit, at the footstool of these great leaders and learn. So thank you for being here and welcome. If there's anything that the school district can do to help you, please don't hesitate to let us know. Thank you.
So you heard it here. We're leading here in Leon County. We're leading. We're the capital city. We're leading. And we want you to go home and help us lead. All roads for emancipation lead back here where it started. So we need you to celebrate with us and make sure that your communities are aware of these events, very important events, because if you don't know where you've come from, then you won't know where you're going. Or if someone's leading you, you won't know whether they're leading you right or wrong. So I want to thank our Senator Loranne Ausley for doing this. And she mentioned one of our sheroes, Congresswoman Meek. They're having her services. They started yesterday and going through a few days of this week. And I want to make one correction. She didn't make history. She made her story. That was her story. And because she did it, then you can do it, I can do it, any of us can do it, because she did it first. And so her story is our story. So as we move along, we're gonna now be blessed by a selection of music of the period by the Washington Sisters, the Cotton Club Museum and Cultural Center in Gainesville, Florida. Would that be you ladies? Y'all came down front? Wow. Y'all ready? Y'all need a moment to catch your breath? Y'all ready? Y'all take the show on the road. All right. I love it. Let's give them a big round of applause as they come and bring us music of the period.
Per request, Swing Low Sweet Chariot. Mm-hmm. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Well, I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? Coming for to carry me home. A band of angels coming after me, coming for to carry me home. Well, if you get to heaven before I do, coming for to carry me home. Tell all my friends I'm coming for to carry me home. Why don't you swing down, chariot, stop and let me ride? Swing down, chariot, stop and let me ride. Rock me, Lord, calm and easy. I got a home on the other side. Swing down, chariot, stop and let me ride. Swing down, chariot, stop and let me ride. Rock me, Lord, calm and easy. I've got a home on the other side. Swing down, chariot, stop and let me ride. Swing down, chariot, stop and let me ride. Rock me, Lord, calm and easy. I got a home on the, I got a home on the, I got a home on the other side. I don't know the words of that.
Thank you. I want to see who all remembers the next one.
You'll be dating yourself.
Okay.
Gonna take a sentimental journey. Gonna set my heart at ease. Gonna make a sentimental journey to renew old memories. Got my bags, I got my reservation. Spend each dime I could afford. Like a child in wild emancipation, long to hear that all aboard. 7, that's the time we meet at 7. I'll be waiting up for heaven, counting every mile of railroad track that takes me back. Never thought my heart could be so yearning. Why did I decide to roam? Gonna make a sentimental journey, sentimental journey home, sentimental journey home.
No, I don't have the words for that. Can you just do twice down? Do what? Twice down. I don't have it. This next one is just because it's seasonal and we are getting ready to celebrate the most important day of the year, the birth of our Savior. So.
C is for the Christ child, born upon this day. H for herald angels in the night. R means our Redeemer. I means Israel. S is for the star that shone so bright. T is for 3 wise men, they who traveled far. M is for the manger where he lay. A is for all he stands for. S means shepherds came, and that's why there's a Christmas day. T is for 3 wise men, they who traveled far. M is for the manger where he lay. A is for all he stands for. S Whistling shepherds came, and that's why there's a Christmas Day. Thank you.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. We are getting a fine, fine education here today. We're getting one that you can't even pay for. Now, I've heard of Sweet Honey in the Rock, but they all the way out of Washington, D.C. We got our own honeys in the rock, right here from Gainesville, Florida. Wow, rich Florida history. Now, where can we find one of your recordings? Because I know you've recorded. You have not recorded. Y'all listen, they haven't recorded. I'll be their manager. Contact us and we will get this thing done. Let's give them another round of applause. Awesome. And y'all know that Mrs. Barnes is a timekeeper. And so I'm going to make sure that I do what I need to do, so she'll ask me to do this again. We're going to move right along. And you know, in the African American church, in the black church, you have a sermonic hymn that precedes the word. Well, we're now about to get the word from Dr. Larry Rivers. Now, as far as I know, if he's preaching without a license, and I'm going to tell our pastor. I'm going to tell on him, but nevertheless, he does have a Ph.D. And I've heard him speak many times. And let me tell you, the education, again, that you're getting here today, we couldn't pay for. We could not pay for. So you're getting in on the ground level. Dr. Larry Rivers is a native of Pennsylvania. He earned his doctorate of arts degree from Carnegie Mellon University and a Ph.D. in history from the University of London. Yes, not London, Florida, you know, London. London Bridge is for London. Rivers is presently a distinguished professor at the Florida A&M University and author or co-author of 8 books, including his most recent book. And let me just tell you, if you have not seen him do his presentation on this book, you need to make sure you get into this. Father James Page, An Enslaved Preacher's Climb to Freedom. And it's new, 2021. And I think you have some of your books here, right? So he has books here. Prior to becoming a distinguished professor of history at FAMU, Rivers served as a professor of history at Valdosta State University from 2013 to 2017, as well as, get this y'all, this Mr. President. He was president of Fort Valley State University, right across the road a little bit, from 2006 to 2013. And more importantly to me, and hopefully to you, he is a son of God. He and I are church members. I taught his sons in Sunday school, and his wife is my sorority sister. So if I say he's beloved to me, he's beloved to me because we have a relationship. And by the time he's finished with you today, you have a relationship too. So without further ado, Dr. Rivers, come on down. The price is right.
Thank you.
Isn't it strange? Isn't it strange that princes and kings and clowns that caper in sawdust rings and common people like you and me, we are the builders for eternity. To each is given a bag of tools, a shapeless mask, and a book of rules. And each must make in our life a flown, whether we're going to be stepping blocks or stepping stones. Isn't it strange? It is not strange, my friends, that we are here this morning. We're here this morning to talk about, to celebrate, an important event that occurred 168 years ago, the announcement, the reading of the Emancipation Proclamation. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It is so nice to have each and every one of you here. Thank you. I want to thank the Emancipation Day committee members for working so hard to put this important event on. Would they please stand? All members of the Emancipation Day committee, please stand. Let's give them a round of applause. Second, I want to thank Commissioner Diane Williams-Cox and Mrs. Althemise Barnes for their untiring work to bring this Emancipation Day conference to fruition. Would you please stand and recognize Mrs. Barnes and Commissioner Williams-Cox? Let's everybody stand and give them a round of applause. Now, I don't have a lot of time, and as a historian, I love talking. I had prepared a speech for you for 3 hours, but I knew you would start walking out, so I got it down to an hour and a half. No, joke, I'm gonna be out of here very soon. What I'd like to do is talk about facts versus perspective versus perception. And I want to cover a couple things based on, thank you so much, based on the research I have done. This is a fact. In Florida and throughout this country, so many people still don't know that the Emancipation Day for Floridians is May 20th, 1865, and not June 19th or Juneteenth, as it is commonly called. I teach several classes at the Florida A&M University, and I ask my students, when is Emancipation Day in Florida? They give June 19th. So we got a lot of educating to do. But let me before I really start going off on Emancipation Day, let me take you back a few moments. From the day Africans were enslaved in colonial America, we're going to try to get some history right here. From the day they were enslaved in colonial America, they often talked about resisting and fighting for their freedom. In fact, on May of 1865, when a black U.S. colored soldier asked former slave Claude Wilson's mother whether she knew that she was free, she answered, and I quote, "Yes, sir. I've been praying for this day for a long time," unquote. And former slave Claude Wilson's mother knew for sure, after the reading of the Emancipation Proclamation on May 20th, 1865, here in Tallahassee, that her freedom was a reality. In my most recent book, Father James Page, An Enslaved Preacher's Climb to Freedom, in my book that's been out for a while, Slavery in Florida, Territorial Days, I write about the incorrect perception held by some that the majority of enslaved people did not know what the Civil War was all about. And somehow they were kept in the dark about the reason for fighting the Civil War. Some were kept in the dark, I admit, but the majority of blacks knew about the Emancipation Proclamation. Early in the Civil War, enslaved blacks knew what they were fighting for in Florida and throughout the country. Let me give you an example. In East Florida, over 1,000 enslaved men and women stole away from their enslavers to join the Union Army and Navy to fight for their freedom. In Middle Florida, some enslaved persons made their long trek to East Florida to join the Union military, both the Army and the Navy. Father James Page talks about enslaved men leaving the Park Hill plantation to make their way to the Union Army and Navy in Jacksonville to fight for their freedom. Yes, over 180,000 blacks fought for the Union Army, and another 20,000 blacks fought for the Union Navy. So enslaved persons knew what the Civil War was about, and they knew exactly what they were fighting for. Many enslaved men and women served as guides, spies, and as general laborers in an effort to support the Union cause and their own freedom. Enslaved fugitives carried information to the Union military in East and West Florida. According to a Confederate soldier, and I quote, "We captured a Negro man making his way to Fort Pickens in Pensacola in a boat. He was carrying information to the enemy," unquote. Even after the Union Army had taken control of the Battle of Gettysburg, General Robert E. Lee blamed the loss on the intelligence of a black spy. General Lee noted that, and I quote, "the chief source of information to the enemy is through our Negroes," unquote. As we deal, my friends, with perceptions, many historical sources point to the fact that enslaved people joined the Union cause in hopes of gaining their own freedom. They did not sit back and just let other people fight for them. They had the agency. They understood what the Civil War was about. And if it was simply about states' rights, they changed it to a fight for liberation of African American people. As the war continued, the Confederacy started losing battle after battle. Some leaders of the Confederacy grew more desperate and sought, as a last-ditch effort, to use enslaved people. But enslaved people really did not want to fight for the Confederacy. There are several books out that say a lot of enslaved people willingly fought for the Confederacy. Now, I grant you, some enslaved people did fight for the Confederacy, but the majority of enslaved people fought for the Union because they understood that by fighting for the Union, they were also what? Fighting for their freedom. So we want to make sure and get that right. There were, from my research, 2 enslaved Confederate units. One mustered in Louisiana, and the other one mustered in Virginia. But the majority of enslaved people who fought on the side of the Confederacy were coerced. They were body servants. Can someone tell me what is a body servant? Yes, thank you very much. A body servant, I say that to my students all the time. I say, students, could you, and they get quiet. I say, thank you very much. That's a great answer. Let me just expound on it. Many of these men assisted their masters in the field of battle. They produced salt. Why was salt so important? Preservation of food. So they were instrumental in the preservation of food. They served as longshoremen and as body servants. Again, In my biography of James Page, he says, and I quote, "I remember traveling during the war, and I could see that the Confederacy was using servants everywhere I went. I remember seeing servants loading and unloading ships for the Confederates," unquote. And although enslaved men were used mostly as body servants, this is a fact. Some enslaved women went off to war as body servants for their male masters. For example, former bondwoman Harriet Barrett remembered that her master, and I quote, "carried me to war with him 'cause I was a good cook," unquote. And I found in looking at over 2,000 former slave narratives that theme over and over again. Enslaved women, not just men, Miss Barnes, serving as body servants. Now, these body servants were instrumental to the Confederate cause because that kept the Confederates from having to do a lot of the manual labor, and they just simply coerced their body servants to do a lot of this labor. So let me now go back to the Emancipation Proclamation. What I want to do through this journey to emancipation is to talk about the Civil War and blacks' participation on their journey. They helped with this journey. That's the point I'm trying to make. They helped with this journey. And at the end of the journey, over 40,000 African American men and women died fighting the Civil War. That was a number there. So let's go back to the Emancipation Proclamation. As I read a text from Mr. Clifton Lewis, he was absolutely right. The Emancipation Proclamation is widely misunderstood document. When we think of the Emancipation Proclamation, what do you think of? Well, generally speaking, the Emancipation Proclamation was a military maneuver by President Abraham Lincoln to get France and England to support the Northern cause and to keep England and France from supporting the South or the Confederacy by saying to these European countries that we were fighting a war of freedom and liberty. President Lincoln and his administration hoped that issuing the Emancipation Proclamation would also appeal to the sensibilities of the European working class. After the Union battle at Antietam on September 17, 1862, Mr. Flowers, President Lincoln felt that the time was right to show the world that the Civil War was more than just a fight between an agrarian South, an industrial North, and over simply states' rights. So Lincoln first issued his preliminary Emancipation Proclamation statement in September of 1862. And the former Emancipation Proclamation was issued on January 1st of 1863. Lincoln also hoped that the Emancipation Proclamation would entice larger numbers of enslaved blacks to abandon the South to aid the North in their own freedom. Here again, fact versus perspective versus perception. Perception. The Emancipation Proclamation originally freed all enslaved persons in the United States. Fact, in 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation did not free all enslaved people. Fact, in 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation did not free all enslaved people. The Emancipation Proclamation did not free enslaved people in the border states of Delaware, Maryland, Missouri, and Kentucky, and some people even say West Virginia. Fact, in 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation did not free a single slave in the Confederate States of America. Why? Why? Why did the Emancipation Proclamation not free all enslaved people? Well, because the Confederate States did not recognize President Lincoln as their president, or the Union as legitimate. The Confederacy consisted of, yes, Florida, North and South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Texas, Virginia, Arizona. Arkansas. I wanted to see if y'all were listening with that Arizona. And Tennessee. They all recognize who as their president? Very good, Jefferson Davis. And as their president, so the Emancipation Proclamation meant nothing to the Confederate States of America, since they had separated from President Lincoln and the Union to separate their own, to become their own country. So enslaved people in the Confederate States for a while were still very much slaves in 1863. But Lincoln's strategy, my friends, of issuing the Emancipation Proclamation worked in part because it mentioned, as I mentioned earlier, the Emancipation Proclamation gave enslaved people the incentive to fight on the side of the Union for their freedom. With the Emancipation Proclamation, historians Bob Luke and David Smith noted that after 1863, President Lincoln had transformed the war from a constitutional struggle over states' rights to a war of black liberation. So now I want to try to give some context to the Emancipation Proclamation and its importance to black people in particular and other Americans in general. So now let's focus on the Emancipation in particular. When Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered on April 9, 1865, this signaled the demise and the loss of the Confederacy to the Union. And with the loss to the Confederacy, the Emancipation Proclamation now could be enforced. Although many former enslaved people throughout the South knew about or heard about the Emancipation Proclamation, however, some enslaved people had not heard about the Emancipation Proclamation. In fact, some enslaved persons in Florida and Texas never heard about the Emancipation Proclamation because their masters kept any word of the Emancipation Proclamation away from them in order that they might continue to work on their farms and plantations as slaves. Let me see if I can explain and put this Texas and Florida in some more context. Okay. In the aftermath of President Lincoln issuing the Emancipation Proclamation, the federal government made an effort in January of 1863 to publicize the proclamation in areas occupied by Union forces. According to historian James Oakes, the Union War Department circulated 15,000 copies of the Emancipation Proclamation throughout much of the South. Oakes also noted that 237 Union agents were tasked with the responsibility of going onto Southern farms to let people know about the presidential proclamation. Other historians have generally noted that the issuing of the Emancipation Proclamation followed no set pattern or format. Sometimes Army officers made their rounds to the plantation and farms armed with the Emancipation Proclamation. Some historians have noted that some enslaved people didn't learn of the proclamation until well into the summer of 1863. And some, my friends, did not learn of the Emancipation Proclamation until much later in 1865, almost to the end of the war. So after President Lincoln's death in 1864, Secretary of War Edwin Stanton sent Union officials into the rebelling states. Question: why did Florida and Texas have Union officers read the Emancipation Proclamation to its former enslaved people? And did other Union officers read the Emancipation Proclamation to blacks and white residents in other southern states like they did in Florida and Texas. Now to the question of Florida and Texas. Although not for certain, this is a work in progress. Historians have generally agreed that the Emancipation Proclamation was read in Florida on May 20th, 1865, and in Texas on June 19th of 1865, because they were likely the last two states remaining under Confederate control in 1865. Therefore, if Union officials thought it was necessary to announce formally the Emancipation Proclamation, Mr. Gully, one of my former students, to black Americans in Florida, I'm gonna test you once this is over. Since some of them might not have heard of the Emancipation Proclamation. So did Union officials read the Emancipation Proclamation in other southern states as they did in Florida and Texas? The answer to that question is couldn't read, but it's a question unclear as to whether Union officials actually read it to them in other states other than Florida and Texas. For example, Mr. Lewis, citizens in Clarksville, Tennessee celebrated Emancipation Day on August 8th of each year. In fact, the first recorded celebration of Emancipation Proclamation in Clarksville, Tennessee was on August 8th, 1871. But we have not found where there was an actual reading like in Florida and in Texas. But in terms of the Emancipation being read by Union officials, that remains very unclear at this point. I got graduate students working on this. We see where so many of the southern states are celebrating the Emancipation Proclamation, but we have not found definitive evidence to suggest, like Texas and Florida, where Union officials actually read the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, this is something I know most of you already know, but I'm just going to review it with you. So from the time of Lee's surrender on April 9th, 1865 to May 10th, 1865, it took 31 days for Union General Edward McCook to get to Florida to read the Emancipation Proclamation. Fact, General McCook did not immediately read the Emancipation Proclamation to Florida residents. Fact, General McCook did not immediately read the Emancipation Proclamation to the residents. General McCook read the Emancipation Proclamation 10 days after his arrival, 10 days after his arrival to Tallahassee. General McCook did not enter Tallahassee on May 20th, 1865. The general and his men entered on May 10th, 1865, to first accept the surrender of Florida. And 10 days later, on May 20th, 1865, General McCook publicly read the Emancipation Proclamation before a mass audience on the steps of the Knott House right here in Tallahassee, Florida. Let me say again, General McCook did not arrive in Tallahassee on May 20th. He arrived on May 10th. And after 10 days, he indeed read the Emancipation Proclamation. So for about 10 days, General McCook and his soldiers rode around to area farms and plantations, informing blacks and whites, alike, that the Emancipation Proclamation would be read on May 20th, 1865. Now, to continue with facts and perspectives, the Emancipation Proclamation was the first step in solidifying the freedom of black Americans. The Emancipation Proclamation was, Ms. Schoon, the first step in solidifying the freedom of black Americans. An important step, and one recognized by the iconic black leader Frederick Douglass and other blacks. Another step would have to be taken to make black liberation the constitutional law Commissioner Williams-Cox of the land. And it was on this day, this very day, December 6, some 156 years ago, that the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution legally abolished slavery in the United States. This is a fact. The 13th Amendment that abolished slavery in the United States was not the first 13th Amendment. Let me repeat that. This is a fact. The first 13th Amendment that abolished slavery in the United States was not the first 13th Amendment. No, there was another 13th Amendment proposed before the 13th Amendment to abolish slavery. There were two 13th Amendments. The first 13th Amendment, which would have allowed the opposite effect on black people, was proposed by Ohio Congressman Thomas Corwin, C-O-R-W-I-N. In fact, the first 13th Amendment proposed in 1861, called the Corwin Amendment, would have had the effect of legalizing slavery in America through a constitutional amendment. I gotta take a little water.
I think we all need a little drink.
Yeah.
Hearing that.
So the Corwin Amendment would have the effect of legalizing slavery. So instead of the 13th Amendment being an amendment to outlaw slavery in the United States, it was originally designed to protect and legalize domestic institutions. And you know, among the most precious domestic institution in 1861 was what? Slavery. But due to the impending Civil War and bickering between the North and the South, the 13th Amendment, originally proposed to legalize slavery, did not get the approval of 75% of all the states in the Union in 1861. Thank God. Please remember this. The first 13th Amendment still lies dormant, and it could become the 28th Amendment if passed today by 38 states. You see, the Congress passed it. They just didn't have the votes. Someone could bring up legalizing. It wouldn't be the 13th, it would be now maybe the 28th. But it's still well on the books. It can be legalized anytime somebody has the gumption to get something started. And in this climate, let me move on. I don't want to get political. Let me move on. I'm gonna try to end this plane, land it. Another fact, the 13th Amendment's aim was to abolish slavery, but in reality, the 13th Amendment technically still allows slavery in the United States. The 13th Amendment still allows Attorney Flowers. We need to work on this. Let me tell you why it still allows slavery. Section 1 of the 13th Amendment reads thusly, and I quote, "Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except, and except is an important word here, as punishment for crime whereof the party should have been duly convicted shall exist within the United States in any place subject to its jurisdiction," unquote. That's why so many prisoners make 10 and 15 cents an hour, form of slavery. Part of what they call the exception clause in today's 13th Amendment, also known as the punishment clause, makes it possible for slavery to be used as a method of punishment in these United States. So in 2021, slavery and voluntary servitude is still technically legal in the United States. A fact. Frederick Douglass and other leaders noted the importance of the 13th Amendment, but Ms. Barnes, they regarded the Emancipation Proclamation as the key document that helped to start the movement toward black freedom in the United States. In his autobiography, Frederick Douglass noted as much, and I quote, "The proclamation changed everything. It gave new direction to the councils of the cabinet and to the conduct of national arms," unquote. Douglass continued to say of the proclamation, and I quote, "Can any colored man or any white man friendly to freedom of all men," and I'm gonna put in here women, "even forget the night the proclamation was signed," unquote. And just about every year after the Civil War ended, Douglass appeared with black free men and women to celebrate the anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation. Through his life, Douglass did not talk much about the 13th Amendment, but he talked a whole lot about the Emancipation Proclamation. Many southern states celebrate Emancipation Day at different times and different places, and all that's good. But we here in Florida celebrate the Emancipation Day on May 20th of each year, because it was on May 20th, 1865, when General McCook read the Emancipation Proclamation to former enslaved people on the steps of the Knott House right here in Tallahassee, Florida. And my friends, and that's a fact. Thank you.
Fact or fiction? I think we know the difference. And I like the way he teach. He don't assume we know anything, because many times we don't. But he gave us a great answer. Now, in case Jeopardy calls, or where's your student that you're gonna be? Where's the student? Mr. Gully, you're gonna be quizzed. We hope you pass. Let's give Dr. Rivers another round of applause. And let me give a big shout out to the city of Tallahassee for recording this whole session. And you will see them throughout. You'll see the city of Tallahassee throughout recording, because we have got to get this word out, and we can't count on my memory or your memory. We got to use Memorex to make sure that it gets to where it needs to go. We also want to thank all of our sponsors, but I'm seeing in the back, I see Visit Tallahassee is back there. Thank you for the breakfast this morning. I ate a whole cupcake, muffin. It tasted like a cupcake, and coffee and everything. Thank you all so much for all of that. Mrs. Barnes gave me a note. Remind workshop presenters to proceed immediately to their rooms, and remind buses will load at 8:45 in the morning at the Marriott Hotel. Y'all got that? 8:45 in the morning, the buses will load, and workshop. I'm gonna give you some instructions on the workshop. This is here in your book, but you know, sometimes we have to speak it into hearing, because sometimes when you're over 40, it's kind of hard to. And I'm just a few days over 40. So our workshops, there's a break, so you can peruse and check in with Dr. Rivers on his books. There's some other books, I believe, out there as well. So you all take a look at those. But here are the workshops. Workshop number 1, Emancipation History, Process, and Impact, is going to be in room A. And I believe the rooms are labeled, or we have folks who can help guide you. Workshop, and I will be the moderator, and the panelists for that one is Mr. Clifton Lewis, Dr. David Proctor, Sergeant Major U.S. Army Retired Jarvis Rozier, and Dr. Joanne Burgess. Workshop 2, Civil War to Emancipation, Multifaceted Instructional Approaches. That's going to be in room B. And the moderator for that is Darrell Jones. Is he here yet? Let me imitate him. Y'all are here. He has that big booming voice. Darrell Jones, and he is chair of the Leon County School Board. That's my good friend. And the panelist for that one is Susan Walden, Leon County Schools Coordinator of Professional Learning and Instructional Materials, Dr. Natalie King Pedroso, Associate Professor of English at Florida A&M University, and Gwyneth and Charles Parrish with the MLK Community Center for Monticello, Florida. Workshop 3, and all these are concurrent workshops. And if you miss one, you want to go to more than one, they will be repeated this afternoon. Workshop 3, protecting, restoring, and preserving African American cemeteries. And that one's going to be at the AC Marriott Meeting Room, Cascades 4. So that's going to be next door. And the moderator for that one is Charlotte County Councilman Jahar Cummings and Historian Florida local elected black officials. Okay. And the panelists are going to be Sharon Thompson, Lonnie Mann, and Jacoby Pittman. Workshop 4, Emancipation in Florida, Testimonies, Traditions, and Strategies. That too is going to be at the AC Marriott, and that one's going to be in room Cascades 5. Roman number 5 is what you'll look for. The moderator will be Kathleen Spearhart, Executive Director of Tallahassee Leon County Council on Culture and the Arts, COCA. And panelists will be Vivian Fowler, Tim Barber, Sandra Rooks, Gail Phillips, Mary Allen, Charlene Farrington, Harriet Myers, and Danny Sylvester. And following those workshops will be a lunch break. Lunch pickup will be up at Overlook Lounge, and that's from 12:30 to 1:30. And all of this information is in your book. So feel free, and you'll also see the moderators and some of the presenters and information. You also find a full bio on all presenters here. You'll see Dr. Rivers' full bio there as well. So workshop presenters, you can proceed immediately to your rooms. And I know you probably know by now where those rooms are. But please stop by. Dr. Rivers, you want to go and be with your books so you can autograph them for them. And others who have books here as well. So if you would do that. Again, thank you very, very much. And we look forward to continuing our conference and happy Freedom Day.